Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hyatt Regency in Santa Clara, California. The Silicon Valley Black Chamber of Commerce presents Blacks in Business, Blacks in Technology Awards presentation. Your Master of Ceremonies for this evening is the President of Success by Choice Incorporated and the award-winning author of 7 Winning Speaker Strategies. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Marlon Smith.
Ladies and gentlemen, how do you feel? Oh, come on, how do you feel? My name is Marlon Smith, and I will be your MC for the evening. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very excited because this is such a spectacular program. It's very innovative, and I know we still have people coming in, so I'm gonna ask that you come on and take your seats because the schedule is very, very full. And so I'd like to, first of all, just say thank you. Thank you for coming out tonight, Blacks in Business, Blacks in Technology, a very important evening where we celebrate the rich history of African Americans in business as well as in technology. And I'd like for us, first of all, to give a round of applause to the Silicon Valley Black Chamber for being innovative and making this happen. And as you know, it takes partnership. It takes all of us working together to make something like this happen. And so I'd like to recognize our sponsors, our first platinum sponsor, Morgan Stanley. Okay, my man got a hand up, I see that. And then we also have Chevron and SAMA and the Santa Clara Valley Water District. All right, they in the house, Jack. Union Bank, R&B 102.9, that's a favorite. Cisco, yeah, Intel, HP. All right, HP in the house. That's where I used to work. All right. Comcast, Wells Fargo, yeah, US Bank. All right, excellent. So, you know, that's our sponsors, and you know, here's the thing. We've heard the cliche African proverb, it takes an entire village to raise a child. But one of the things that is very important with this partnership, with this collective, is we are working together. And so I'm glad we recognize the sponsors, but I also want to recognize those of you in the audience. Would you please give yourselves a round of applause? Thank you. We're going to have a wonderful message shared by a gentleman who is truly committed to the cause, truly committed to making a difference. I'm very blessed to be able to call him friend. Dr. George C. Frazier is chairman and CEO of FrazierNet, a company he founded some 28 years ago to lead a global networking movement for people of African descent. Born in Brooklyn, New York, he was an orphan and a foster child for 15 years. He has written 5 best-selling books to include Success Runs in Our Race, Click, and most recently, Mission Impossible, Extraordinary Stories of Failures, Blessings, a book he co-authored with Les Brown. Upscale magazine named him one of the top 50 power brokers in Black America. And Black Enterprise magazine called him Black America's #1 networker. He's been featured on 7 national magazine covers and has received 350 awards and citations, to include induction into the Minority Business Hall of Fame and Museum, 2 honorary doctorate degrees, and an ambassadorship. He's been married to Nova Jean for 42 years. 42 years. And they are blessed with 2 sons. Dr. Frazier is most proud of the African-centered charter school he helped found it, which educates nearly 300 inner-city Black children, of which 75% of them are boys. Would you please give a round of applause to my friend and your friend, soon to be, Dr. George Frazier.
I want to start with a quote from Drake. I want to start with a quote from Drake that I think is relevant to every brother and sister sitting in this room. Started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom, now we're here. Absolutely. Look what God has done. We're an awesome and proud and powerful people. Look what God has done. God has given us everything we need to succeed in this great country. The second quote, and I'm going to pivot on this quote to my short remarks, is a quote from Jesus Christ. There are not many direct quotes from Jesus Christ in the Bible. It's from the Bible, John 5:30. John 5:30. Look it up when you go home tonight. And Jesus said, I of my own self can do nothing. Now this was Jesus. Jesus couldn't get it done on his own by himself in a vacuum, so what's up with you? Why would you think that you could do anything significant, anything worth talking about on your own by yourself in a vacuum? It is not possible. This is why we have black chambers. This is why you have one of the greatest black chambers in the Silicon Valley area. This passage says to me that we were born to network, that we were born to collaborate, that we were born to work with and through each other, and that it is time for us, brothers and sisters, to connect the dots. This is our moment, and this is our time. As I said earlier, we have everything we need to succeed except each other. Our Jewish brothers and sisters have each other. East Indians have each other. Asians have each other. Arabs have each other. What we need is each other. We are a $1.1 trillion annual economy. If we were a nation, we'd be the 16th richest nation in the entire world. But our money goes in one direction, away from us, and we're some of America's most conspicuous consumers. We have brain power. I'm a baby boomer, 70 years old on May 1st. I know I look 35 or 40. But you know black don't crack. We need each other. We have brain power. As a baby boomer, we have amassed from one generation alone over 500 billion hours of formal education and professional training. If you wanted to put a dollar value on that at just $10 an hour, and try to get an education and professional training in America for $10 an hour, but let's be conservative. That would mean that our collective intellectual capital base from one generation alone, brothers and sisters, is worth in excess of $5 trillion. We have surpassed W.E.B. Du Bois' dream of the talented 10th. Remember, his dream is if at least 10% of us could get the finest education possible. He meant a college education. We would then get that education. We would then come back to the community, and that 10% alone would uplift the entire race. Well, 18% of black people in America have at least a 4-year college degree or better. So we have surpassed W.E.B. Du Bois' dream by 80%. Said another way, we have a lot of PhDs in our community. We now need some PhDs. Carl Davis is a PhD. The Black Chamber is a PhD. So we're brilliant people. And here's an interesting statistic we never hear. 60% of the black workforce in America, 9 million of us, are in executive, managerial, supervisory, professional specialty, vocational, technical, administrative, sales, and business ownership positions. That is an army of potential role models and mentors to help those of us who are stuck in the cycle of poverty. So make no mistake about it, success runs in our race. This is a little chart I carry around, and to me, it is a metaphor for our people. Here you have beautiful, educated, and moneyed black people all over Northern California, all over America. They could represent black churches, black organizations, social and civic and fraternities. And what you will notice about these beautiful and educated and moneyed black people is that everybody is doing their own thing, caught up in a Eurocentric value system of rugged individualism, survival of the fittest. Well, it's a trick, brothers and sisters. There is no power here. This is not where the power is. This is where the power is, when we connect the dots. Whether you're at the center of your own network, or part of someone else's network, part of the Silicon Valley Black Chamber, this is where the power is. When people connect, the communities are stronger. When people connect, schools are better. When people connect, economic growth is better in our community. So it is time for us to connect the dots. This is our time, brothers and sisters, and we must do this. We must do it to help close the inclusion and diversity gap in Silicon Valley. 60% of that responsibility of closing that gap will be on the leaders of the great technology organizations in this area. That's 60% of the responsibility. That's what Jesse Jackson and Operation Push and that whole initiative about closing this inclusion and diversity gap. Google now committing $150 million to that initiative. But the other 40% of that responsibility falls upon the brothers and sisters who are up in there, who are already working for and are a part of these great organizations. So let me give you a closing story and metaphor. I spent 13 years in leadership positions with Procter & Gamble, P&G, Push and Grab, Procter & God, the beasts of marketing, the beast of sales. They invented branding.
Wow. The power of the spoken word. Please continue your dinner. I would like to make just two announcements. Announcement number one is that the silent auction will be concluding at the end of dinner. So feel free, silent auction is wonderful, wonderful things that are being auctioned. And then also, again, Southwest Airlines, the special raffle. There's only a couple raffles, so you could win. Raffles are $20 each. It has a value of $800. 2 round-trip tickets from Southwest anywhere in the continental U.S. So please enjoy your dinner. Thank you.
Diversity makes a company and our country stronger. Diversity empowers people with the ability to achieve their goals. Without diversity, we really are not as strong of a company or a country as we can really be. Today, Morgan Stanley is actively reaching out into the community, into the African American and Hispanic business communities, reaching out for future financial advisors, future management, and future employees who can help diversify our company, as well as LBGT and women and all ethnic groups. Diversity. That's what makes Morgan Stanley better. That's what makes our company better. It makes us stronger.
A long time ago, in the land of warm waters, there lived 2 brothers born of the same mother. They grew up inseparable until one day one of the brothers disappeared. And no matter how hard the villagers searched, he could not be found. And then one day, in a distant land of cold winters, the daughter of one brother walked towards the daughter of the other. With every step, they drew closer, until finally they walked past each other, like masked strangers, one never noticing the other.
There are many Africans that will sit in class next to an African American and not say one word. Not one word for the whole class. There may be 2 people of color in that class, one African and one African American, and they will not look at each other. For fear of what?
My name is Will Johnson, Black Bean Ceramic Arts Center. We offer classes, membership basis for people who come and create ceramic pieces whenever they want. We have all the equipment. They have a key to the door. They can come and work 24/7. I don't have to be here to open up the facility. They can come in and create art at any time they want.
Get down with Brown. We'll get through this drought just fine. Even our lawns.
We got down with Brown and ditched the kiddie pool.
This is better than the sprinkler!
I'll take it to the car wash. I'm down with Brown.
Join the movement and help fight the drought. Get down with Brown.
Santa Clara County. This summer, Brown is the new green. Let's join together to save water. Get involved. Do your part to help California fight the drought.
There's a place that's a cornerstone of our community. It's here you'll find the origins of San Francisco hospitality.
With an unbounded passion for his adopted city,
native West Indian William Alexander Leesdorf
sat at San Francisco's first town council and board of education,
donating the site on which our first
public school was erected.
And after purchasing the land,
Leesdorf built San Francisco's first hotel near the street that proudly bears his name.
William Alexander Leesdorf.
At Union Bank, community matters.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, it's a very special evening, and I'd like to recognize some of our elected officials and some dignitaries. I'd like for elected official Richard Santos to stand up, please. And let's give Richard a round of applause. Thank you for being here, Richard. I'd also like to recognize, and we'll hold the applause, these are city council members and supervisors, and I'd like to have Supervisor Dave Cortese stand. I'd also like to have San Jose City Council member Johnny Camas. I'd like San Jose City Council member Charles Chappie Jones to stand. And last but certainly not least, I'd like for San Jose City Council member Ash Cara. I was just making sure y'all were listening. And I'd like for these four individuals, please come up on stage with me at this time.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here with a couple of my colleagues, Councilmember Johnny Camas, as well as, you know, when I got elected in 2008, I had replaced termed out Councilmember Forrest Williams, who was the last African-American to serve on the San Jose City Council until now with Charles Chappie Jones. And so let's give him a round of applause as we have better representation on the council. And of course, the president of the Board of Supervisors, Supervisor Dave Cortese. And it's our great honor to be here. As Mr. Frazier said, we need more PH dues. I'm gonna call my mom tomorrow for Mother's Day and say, Mom, I'm a PH due. I'm gonna say it really fast. Let's see if she starts calling me doctor. But seriously, when we talk about, especially here in Silicon Valley, the great amount of wealth that's being created right here in our valley, it's unconscionable to think that in the high school district that I graduated from, Eastside Union High School District, that still approximately 40% of African American students drop out of high school. It's something that not only the African American community, but all of us should be held accountable for that. And then when we look forward into the workforce and see in Silicon Valley where we know we're not having the number of African Americans hired, even matching the number of engineers graduating, so it's not even a matter of not having the pool of employees. They're not being hired even though they're there and they're qualified, and that's not acceptable either. It's not just good enough for the African American community to stand up and say, we need to stay together. We all have to be there with you. Not just when I'm at a Silicon Valley Black Chamber of Commerce event, but when I'm out in the community, when I'm speaking, my family's from India, when I speak to the Indian American community that has had a lot of success in the tech sector, make sure I hold them accountable. to do what they can to ensure that they hire more women, more people of color, particularly African Americans and Latinos, who are being left out of what is occurring right now in Silicon Valley. So those are my short comments that I have, along with the commendation. And I don't know if any of my other colleagues want to say a few words. Okay, well, I'm just very excited to be here, and I want to thank the Silicon Valley Black Chamber of Commerce. Carl, this is phenomenal. You and your team putting this together is extraordinary, and this is what I hope to be the beginning of real constructive work on making sure that African Americans have a much greater position in Silicon Valley and a much greater say in how their kids are educated and eventually how they're hired into the wealth that's being created here in Silicon Valley. So congratulations. Thank you.
My comments are going to be very brief because I'll be up here speaking later, but I want to thank, Ash Carla for that and all the other council members and Dave to come out. These are people that, I don't have to beg to come and do things. When we say something about the chamber, they're considered our champions, and they come that way. So I want you to remember that, and let's give them a round of applause for coming and stepping up, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. We can feel your passion because it's very important that we do link arms and we work together. I'd now like to go ahead and move into our award ceremony. And I want you to understand that the individuals that we're recognizing are pioneers, individuals that have truly made a difference. And so our first award recognition will be the Excellence in Business and Technology Legacy Award. And I'd like for you to direct your attention to the screen.
This is Jerry Lawson. I'm originally from New York City, born and raised, been in California since 1968.
Gerald A. Lawson is considered the father and creator of the world's first home cartridge-based video game, the Fairchild Channel F. After inventing his own video game, Demolition Derby, in 1973 in his own garage, Jerry ran the video game division at Fairchild Semiconductor, where he and his team created the first home video game system that used interchangeable cartridges, offering gamers a chance to play a variety of games. Once players could switch games on a whim, game developers and software companies earned millions. He was a pioneering figure in the now multi-billion-dollar video and arcade game industry. In the 70s and 80s, he was the only black member of the infamous Homebrew Computer Club, featuring such members as Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and PC pioneer Lee Fellenstein. Ladies and gentlemen, Gerald A. Lawson.
I'd like to invite Jerry's wife and daughter to the stage.
Yes. Good evening. I am Catherine Lawson, and I would like to thank the Chamber for recognizing my husband, Jerry, for his work. Not very many people knew him at the time, and I think it was a surprise to a lot of people when they found out who Jerry really was. I'd like to also thank Harold Clay for recommending him for this award as well. Thank you. I want to say something about today.
But Jerry Lawson, how many people have never heard, didn't know the story? Just look around, you're not alone. And that's why it's so important, again, to educate ourselves so that we can pass it on, that we can share. That's why this evening is so important. I'd like to now have our next award. This is Next Generation of Excellence Achievement Award. If you please go ahead and watch the video screen.
Wayne Sutton is a general partner at Build Up.
Our mission is to connect, mentor, and educate underrepresented groups in tech. What makes Build Up unique as an accelerator is that it's a different model than traditional accelerators. We focus on an online component, an online curriculum, and an offline curriculum as well.
Build Up is a global impact firm designed to support an inclusive ecosystem of entrepreneurs focused on building new technologies to solve the world's most critical challenges. Wayne has also co-founded Black Men in Tech and the new startup company New Me Accelerator, the first minority-led startup accelerator/incubator in Silicon Valley.
Incubators and accelerators are, part of just the entire startup ecosystem that helps support the early stage founders.
Wayne has been recognized as one of Silicon Valley's 100 coolest people in the tech industry, awarded as one of the 52 hottest new stars in Silicon Valley, one of the 46 most important African Americans in technology, and the top 100 most influential Black people on social media. Wayne hosts various roundtable conversations through Build Up Radio as he interviews such notables as Reverend Jesse Jackson, or he has fireside chats with the likes of actor and entrepreneur Dule Hill, or he has online streaming connections and conversations producing his own new show, Pathways to Technology. Ladies and gentlemen, Wayne Sutton.
Wow, I didn't know I was going to show all that. I want to say first, thank you, Silicon Valley Black Chamber. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Felicia. 4 years ago, I came to Silicon Valley from North Carolina to change the world. My journey was kickstarted on a CNN documentary about Blacks in tech. In my first 4 months, I was stopped by the police in Mountain View walking while Black. I'm lucky to be here today. The second 6 months, I was told by other Blacks in Silicon Valley and the Bay Area 2 things. Don't screw it up for us, and you're not the only one here. In year 2, you couldn't find me online talking about diversity or being Black. In year 3, I went back to my passion and mission to do the best I could to help other minority entrepreneurs to use technology to change the world. And today I accept this award for Next Generation of Excellent Achievement Award. This award is not about me. It's about the past who paved the way for me, such as Ken Coleman and Ray. The people who now support my vision and dream to provide education, mentorship, and access to capital for minority entrepreneurs to build up. And then it's about the future entrepreneurs after me. Thank you to my girlfriend Melinda, who stands with me, the Build Up team, Christina Amari, Christian Anderson, my family back in North Carolina, and my son Micah. We all have a lot of work to do. As we be hearing today, the theme has been let's work together. So let's work together, establish partnerships to change the world, to truly impact the next generation that's here today and to come. And with all the momentum around diversity in tech, I tell you, the time is now. Thank you.
And so now for that special time in our program, the keynote speaker. I'd like to share this introduction. Carol H. Williams founded Carol H. Williams Advertising, CHWA, in 1986 in her living room. After recognizing the need for advertising that speaks to the sophistication and influential African-American urban markets, CHWA now has several national offices, a highly diverse and skilled staff and producers, award-winning advertising and marketing campaigns for Fortune 500 companies, including General Motors, General Mills, Kraft, HP, Nationwide Insurance, Procter & Gamble, the U.S. Army, the Walt Disney Company, Marriott, and several others. CHWA's annual billings have exceeded $100 million for more than a decade. Before establishing CHWA, Carol started her career at Leo Burnett Company in Chicago, becoming the first female and first African American creative director and vice president. She was involved in some of the most memorable advertising campaigns in history. How many of y'all remember Strong Enough for a Man, but Made for a Woman? That was Carol. And what about the Pillsbury frosting campaign, Paper Knife? And the entertaining Pillsbury campaign, Say Hello to Poppin' Freshen Dough. After 13 years at Leo Burnett, she served 2 years as Senior Vice President, Creative Director at Foote, Kuhn, and Belding in San Francisco. Carol has received numerous professional honors and community awards during her career. She's also passionate about community service. She has used her talent and resources to help dozens of philanthropic endeavors, including the Rainbow Push Coalition, the Congressional Black Caucus, the NAACP, U.S. Dream Academy, the National Newspaper Publishers Association, and several local community organizations in Oakland and Chicago. A native of Chicago, Carol has a daughter, Carol Hood, a creative writing graduate who has a fellowship with the Art Institute of Chicago, a son, Tippins Hood Jr., who is a COO of her company, and 2 grandchildren, Tipkins and Shelby. Would you please give a round of applause to our keynote, Carol H. Williams.
Good evening. Well, definitely that introduction is going to be longer than my speech. Absolutely. Because I do remember, let's see, when was it? You know, us advertising people, we love to exaggerate things. So, I was at anyway, the speaker was speaking and he went on and on. He was supposed to just have a few minutes to speak, but he went on and on and on. And then the MC kind of rapped his gavel, and guy kept going. And then he rapped his gavel again, and the guy kept going. So he rapped it a third time, and the guy kept going. And the MC got so frustrated, he took that gavel and heaved it over to the front of the dais towards the speaker. And the speaker ducked, and it went over and hit the woman in the front row. And as she was sliding to the floor, she said, "Hit me again." I could still hear him. So that taught me my lesson. You know, I used to ask my husband when I had to do speeches, I said, "Well, what should I say? How long should it be?" He said, "Make it short." And I learned that's the truth. But I want to thank Carl and the Silicon Valley Chamber for inviting me to spend this time with you today. It's been absolutely a magical experience. You know, I have to tell you, when I walked into the door, it was very interesting because I thought I was engulfed in the feeling of, why am I being asked to speak to this auspicious body here today? You know, I can still remember a time when no one wanted to hear anything I had to say. And I walked up to the table, the receiving table out there, and someone called my name, and I turned around and looked. And it was this tall, gorgeous black female, one of the first blacks that ever contracted my company to do marketing. I want to introduce you to my HP client, Leslie. When Leslie hired me, or my company, I was going through one of those periods of down periods. And Leslie really taught me that you always have one more play. One more play. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Someone said, share with me, Carol, what it feels like to be above the glass ceilings. What does it feel like to be above the glass ceiling? Well, I think it begins with recognizing that there really is no such thing. That it is a figment of your imagination. Because when you keep pushing and keep climbing and understanding that it's all about your ability to persevere, then you can win. Ceilings don't exist. If you recognize it, then it exists for you. I remember also when I walked into the room and Leslie said what she did to me, she smiled at me, and I smiled back at her. But I knew she didn't know what I was smiling at. Because as I turned and asked someone else, they said, well, we want to hear about the nuances of your career, the difficulties, the hard journey. Well, why? Are you an entrepreneur? Yeah, most of us are entrepreneurs. And I said, oh, you like to suffer. But you know, that's a key thing you have to understand. That if you want to make it in this world, in this arena, if you want to be an entrepreneur, suffering gotta be all right with you. Because it's part of the game. You cannot make it, at least in anything that I know, if you do not suffer and are not willing to go through it. But as I told you before, it's about understanding, no matter how much you suffer, that you always got one more play. One more play. Imagine the checkerboard. My father told me this story. I was very young, and then I heard a preacher talk about it once. It's like you get beat. You're down to your last man. All you have is your intellect and your desire to win. But just think about it. If you just get in his territory, if you can just get to the other side of the board, then you get crowned. And when you get crowned, you the man. Everybody got to get out the way because you're taking them down left and right. Can you imagine me walking into Leo Burnett? Now, you got to take yourself back a little bit. We're talking about 1970 in marketing. George knows what I'm talking about. You see, because when P&G hired me, that's where he was. You talking about a black female from the south side of Chicago. With a father with a third grade education. My dad used to tell me when I walk in and ask him questions about something, baby, I can't help you. I can take you to church. I can protect you down the street, get you to school, and get you home. But when they come to those books, you have to help me. The hard road. It's a very hard road. When I went to Northwestern University, I would sit in classrooms, and half the time I wouldn't know what the hell they were talking about. But I was determined to find out. I was not going to be defeated. Because if they could sit in there and learn that stuff, I'm humankind too. My blood flows the same way. Okay, let's get it on. You know, one of the things that, well, I was getting ready to tell you, oh, you got to remember I'm a creative, so I digress all the time. When I got hired by Leo Burnett and first met George, I'll never forget when I did my first campaign, which you probably don't even, was actually first thing I worked on was Finger Looking Good for Kentucky Fried Chicken. And those people looked at me, and one person actually asked me, where did I come from? Where did you come from? Out of my mother's womb. Where did you come from? But I really want to share with you one of the things which was very important to me. My father, when I was very young, he asked me what did I want to be when I grew up. And I said I wanted to be of service to the poor, to poor people. He looked at me and he smiled. And he said, well, the best way you could serve poor people is not to become one of them.
And so as we heard with Carol Williams' presentation is that it is about perseverance. And I'd like to now recognize the Spirit of Excellence Award in Business. And this is a gentleman who I heard of when I first moved out to Silicon Valley back in 1989. He was legendary. And so I'm so excited that we're recognizing him. Would you please direct your attention to the screen?
Kenneth L. Coleman has spent roughly 4 decades working in the technology arena here in Silicon Valley at companies such as Hewlett-Packard, Silicon Graphics, and now Sama Technologies.
Well, first, let me tell you a little bit about my story. My mother was a maid, and my father was a laborer. And neither of my parents got out of high school. And I never used that as an excuse or to be held back.
As chairman of Sama Technologies Incorporated, Ken leads one of the largest pure-play analytics solutions and services companies in the data analytics market. Few people know all that Ken does, so let's let Ken tell us what he does.
I've had to deal with discrimination and prejudice, but I haven't looked under the bed for it. What that means is you have to be aware of things will happen to you because some people are prejudiced. That's the way the world is, and there's discrimination does exist. But you can't be held back from it or let that be an excuse for not being successful. One of our focuses is a network of Afro-Americans in technology. That's very important to our long-term strategy in that we believe that all people, regardless of race, are critical from a talent pool point of view, as well as we have a very diverse consumer base for our companies. So I'm often asked, what would I do to help solve this problem of diversity in technology? I would do 3 things I think would matter and make a lot of difference. Number one is I would make sure that my recruiting team was diverse, and that if I wanted to increase the hiring of Afro-Americans, I would make sure I have at least one recruiter who's Afro-American in my organization. 2 is I would look at my interview process and remove my inherent biases that are in my interview process. And then 3 is I would have a robust campus recruiting program, both at traditionally black universities as well as the major universities targeting Afro-Americans and Hispanics coming out of school, because I would be able to attract that young, bright talent into my organization.
I'd like to bring Ken's family up to the stage. Would they please come on up to the stage?
Thank you for honoring my father tonight. The one thing I just wanted to mention today was how we, as the next generation, I see a lot of students here, can prepare ourselves for when the people who are in the positions to hire us are ready to bring somebody on board. And a lot of the times I've heard opportunity meets preparation will equal success. And something that my father would always tell me is that nothing beats hard work. Not your pedigree, not your certificates that you have, none of it. And a funny story that I tell when people come to me and say, Kimberly, you're kind of a different type of a person. You know, you answer your emails at 3 o'clock in the morning. What's going on? What is that? And I say, I remember this time when I had a chemistry final in college, and my father happened to call me at about 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was sleeping, and he said, you know, you sound terrible, what's going on? And I said, I don't think I'm gonna get a good grade on this test, Dad. I've been studying so hard, and I don't know, and I stayed up all night studying. He said, well, but it sounded like you were sleeping. And I said, well, I just went to sleep a couple hours ago. He said, well, then you had more time to study, didn't you? So that's just what I want to impart on the people, is that diversity is something that is necessary for the leadership to make sure that they're looking at when they're hiring people, but it's also something that we need to prepare ourselves for. We need to make ourselves prepared so that when those roles open up, we're ready, we're there, and we are the best candidate. So that's what my father would have said today, I think. Thank you.
We also have a video presentation from Ken that will now play, an acceptance speech.
I am very honored to receive this award from the Black Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber is a very important part of our community. Their support of small businesses is critical to our success here in the Valley. They promote entrepreneurship, capitalism, and jobs. And our young people, as well as those old folks like me, really need that support. I've worked hard to support us in our community because I think we live in this very special place, Silicon Valley, where opportunity is rich. I'm also honored to be chairman of Sama Technology, a leader in data analytics and taking data, turning that data into information, that information to knowledge to help companies achieve a competitive advantage. It's a fun job. I think Silicon Valley creates this enormous opportunity for young people, but we need focus on STEM because that is the grounding of opportunities in technology, which is so important in our valley.
And so now we've come to our last and final award recognition. And then we're going to have some very special recognition of some students, because as we've been talking about this evening, it is about the younger generation and passing on the baton. I'd like to now cue up the video for our Spirit of Excellence Award in Technology.
Roy Clay Sr., a black pioneer from Ferguson to Silicon Valley. Born in Kinloch, Missouri, Roy began his education in the Ferguson, Missouri School District. In 1947, Roy was selected as one of the first African Americans to be admitted into St. Louis University. After graduating in 1951, Roy heard these words, "Sorry, Mr. Clay, but we have no jobs for professional Negroes. quoted a job interviewer from McDonnell Aircraft. But that did not stop Roy Clay Sr. In 1952, Roy married Virginia, who became Roy's life partner. Roy has 3 sons who still live in the Bay Area, and they make up a close family. In 1956, Roy was introduced to computers and moved to California. After being employed by Lawrence Radiation Laboratory and CDC, Control Data Corporation, Roy joined Hewlett-Packard and actually was influential in convincing Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard to go into the computer business. Thus, he's affectionately known as the Godfather of Silicon Valley. In 1973, Roy was elected as the first African American to serve as city councilman for Palo Alto. Today, Roy and 2 of his sons work together in his firm, Rod L Electronics, a top electronics testing firm. Ladies and gentlemen, the Godfather of Silicon Valley, Roy Clay Sr.
Accepting an award for Roy tonight because Roy's a little ill right now, but we wish him well, and he's doing well. I actually went and saw him, and he's in good spirits, is OBG Hugh Burrows. Hugh, will you come up and accept this award for Roy? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I thought that videotape captured much of the highlights of things that I wanted to say about Roy Clay. But let me give you 2 or 3 that I thought that has stayed with me. The first is when I met Roy about 35 years ago, I was based in New York City, and I had done a lot of work in civil rights and in the South and so on, and I thought I knew about racism and so on. And Roy said to me, "You may know about racism back east or in the South, but you don't know about Western racism. So let me teach you some of the nuances." And he taught me for the next 30 years. The second point I want to make is that Roy grew up in near Ferguson. He was born in a place called Kinloch, and many of us didn't know where that was. And he says it's right next to Ferguson. And sure enough, the Ferguson police handcuffed Roy and threw him in a van and gave him a very hard time because he was in Ferguson where he was not supposed to be. So he got home and he said to his mom, "Guess what happened to me? Isn't this awful?" And she says, "Roy, you will experience racism for the rest of your life, but do not allow that to hold you back from your success that's in front of you." And that has stayed with Roy, and he has shared this with me and lots of his other friends. And Roy has gone on to do a lot of firsts in Silicon Valley that you've mentioned. One that wasn't mentioned was that Roy was the first African American admitted to the Olympic Club, and that was quite a distinction. He was the first African American vice mayor of the city of Palo Alto, and had a number of other firsts which have been cited before. He is truly an outstanding man, and when I think about him as the humble icon. Thank you very much. And now my second assignment here is one of real pleasure, and that is to recognize the recipients of the first Silicon Valley Black Chamber of Commerce and Silicon Valley Center for Entrepreneurial Development Student Scholarship Award. The Scholarship Committee has done a fine job, and I'd like to recognize the source of the funds for these 2 $1,000 scholarships. The awards are being made on behalf of the Bay Area OBG group, which is, and the leadership for this award comes from Ralph Gillespie of Foxconn. Ralph, would you stand so we'd see you? At the OBG meetings, we talk about problems and we talk about solutions, but then there are a few guys like Ralph who deliver solutions. So thank you very much, Ralph. And now I'd like to recognize the two students and ask them to come to the podium. The first is Brittany Brooks. Brittany, are you here? And the second is Chastin Lane Gamage. Chastin? Just like to say a few words about the two students before we hand them their $1,000 check or a facsimile thereof. Brittany Brooks, who is on my right, she's going to come close to me and shake my hand. She is pursuing a bachelor's degree at San Jose State in business administration, and she's also minoring in the sociology of education. She has a 3.6 grade point average and expects to graduate in the spring of 2017. Would you join me in recognizing Brittany Brooks? And second is Chastin Lane Gamage. He's a third-year student at San Jose State as well. He's doing a number of things, very impressive bullet points here on this young man. He's the president of Delta Rho chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. He's the director of finance for the National Society of Black Engineers. He's the secretary for the Collegiate 100 Black Men of America. He's a student ambassador for the African American Community Service Agency, and he's a member of the Western Province Board of Undergraduate Directors. Would you please join me in congratulating Chastin?
Let's stand up and give them a standing ovation, please. Come on.
That completes my assignment, and I hope I kept the program on schedule. Thank you.
Because I'd like to keep the program going, and I think we did a good job tonight. I want you guys to thank all the people that put their hearts and soul in this. This is our first event to do this like this, but this is our inaugural because we're going to be doing this every year. And I know that some of you are going to be committed to help us and partner with the Chamber. So give yourselves a round of applause. And then let's thank all the staff that helped us. SOS, our event planners, Lisa and Rita. I want you to point to them right there. And all the other people that helped us. There'd be so many, I couldn't name them all or we'd never get out of here tonight. But I just want to leave with these parting remarks. The things that we said tonight are just not things that we want to fall on unfertile ground. You heard a lot of stuff tonight. Some things resonated with you in different ways. The gist of what you're coming away from now is that you can make a difference. I'm standing here now making a difference. Connecting with Marlon Smith, connecting with people around the world, all the sponsors here tonight who stepped out and supported the vision. You can make a difference. I challenge you to connect with us, get with us today. We want to do this bigger and better next year, and we want our youth to see the success up on this stage so they'll know you can see it, you can believe it, and we're going to make it happen. Thank you, guys, and we love you. Bye-bye.